Hey guys, welcome back once again to Reignited. Now this is not a video I was hoping to have to make. However, I am trying to be as transparent with you guys as I can and let you know that sometimes things happen, mistakes can be made. Now this 2006 Ram 2500 that we just finished up with our diesel engine rebuild, everything was driving great, the engine runs perfect, no problems there. Driving around, putting some miles on it, make sure everything was okay, and then I noticed one little problem. Check it out. Yeah, as you can tell, we got a pretty serious blow-by problem here, which really surprised me because the cylinder walls look to be in actually pretty decent shape and I put new piston rings on there. Now, another commenter mentioned it. I probably should have ran at least a hone through the cylinders to scuff them up a little bit because they were a little bit glazed. Should have done that, no question. Definitely regretting that now. But with how much blow-by I'm seeing here, I'm kind of wondering if there's something else happening that I missed along the way. Problem is, the only way to figure that out is to take this thing completely back apart again, get those pistons out of there and see what's going on. So kind of a real kick in the pants, not something I was looking forward to doing. Trying to get my mind wrapped around it, but I'm gonna take you guys along the way. I'll show you exactly what I find, try to be as transparent as I can about this whole thing, and we'll see what we find, guys. Stay with me. All right, so I'm not gonna complain about this too much because I know there's a lot of you who live in a lot worse environment than this, but honestly, I moved down to Texas so I wouldn't have to deal with this stuff anymore. But right now we are going through a crazy ice storm. And look at this. It's cost me my trees. So what is blow-by exactly? Now you saw the vapors coming out of the oil fill cap that I showed you, but what is happening inside the engine to actually cause this? Well, I have this really crude demonstration drawn for you here. So imagine this is one of your cylinders and you have your piston moving up and down inside your cylinder. Now, as this thing moves up and down, the piston itself, you'll notice, never actually touches the cylinder walls. It's very close, but it doesn't actually touch. It just glides smoothly up and down inside there. How is that possible? Well, it's because of your piston rings. Now, these rings keep that piston concentric inside the cylinder to where it is never touching these walls, but they also offer a couple other purposes as well. The very bottom ring here is your oil scraper ring. Now, as this piston moves up and down inside the cylinder, it is scraping the cylinder walls of excess oil. Still allows to be a nice sheen of oil on there for lubrication, but it prevents excess oil from building up. Now, your top ring and your second ring are both compression rings. So what that means is under a combustion event that is happening, those rings will press outward against the sides of the cylinder walls and it will hold that combustion pressure in the cylinder itself. Now, blow-by is what happens when that combustion pressure manages to slip by those piston rings. And when it does that, it goes down through the cylinder and into your crankcase. And at that point, it comes back up and will come back out through the valve cover or the oil fill cap as you saw. Not great news. You don't really want that exhaust pressure be pushing into your oil because it'll aerate the oil and also will give it some fuel contamination in there. Not good things to have blow-by in your engine. So with that being said, what can cause blow-by? What can allow those combustion pressure to actually pass by those piston rings? Well, there's a few different things it could be. The first thing is if the piston rings are just flat worn out. If they're not sealing correctly against the cylinder walls anymore, it can allow that combustion pressure to bypass them. Now, another reason is if the cylinder walls themselves have scoring on them or scratch marks in the side of them, that'll allow a path for combustion to slip past them. Now, another reason that could be is if the cylinder bore itself is just wore out. Now imagine, I'm gonna exaggerate it here, but just imagine if the cylinder walls themselves had a bit of a bow to it like that, to where it's wider in the center than it is at the top or at the bottom. In this case, when the piston reaches the center mark here, that combustion pressure is gonna slip past because these rings can no longer seal properly to the cylinder walls. So that's a number of cases of how you can have blow-by in an engine. Now, what about an R Cummins engine? Now, I just rebuilt this thing. I put brand new piston rings on there. The cylinders seem to be in good shape, but I didn't actually measure them. Could that come back to haunt me? Let's find out right now. All right, we got the cab back off the truck. We got the engine out, the engine disassembled. I have the pistons out from the cylinders right now. Let's take a closer look and see if we can't figure out exactly why we're having this blow-by issue. First thing I wanted to show you guys is that the crosshatch pattern on these cylinders is still in terrific shape. And that was actually what threw me at the beginning, was that it was so clean. Now there's a couple of marks here and there, but nothing sharp at all. Now the cylinders did seem maybe a touch glazed, and so I thought, well, maybe I should hit these things real quick. Ultimately, I decided not to, but that was not the issue. Now it certainly isn't uncommon for a Cummins engine to have a blow-by issue. However, you normally see those issues crop up at 300,000 miles or above, something like that. This truck only has 161,000 miles on it. I couldn't think of any scenario in which it would have blow-by, especially that amount of blow-by this early on. So I went ahead and started to investigate some things that I probably should have done the first time around. Now the stock cylinder bore on a Cummins 5.9 engine is 102 millimeters. Now with 161,000 miles on this truck, I had absolutely no reason to think that this engine had ever been worked on before. However, all right, so you guys saw it for yourselves right there. The cylinder bore size on this engine is 102.5 millimeters. So at some point, this engine has been overbored a half a millimeter or 20 thousandths. Now, this is certainly not something you're ever going to notice by just glancing at it. A half a millimeter, that is so small, 20 thousandths, you're never going to know unless you check. So there was my mistake. I should have double checked with my piston rings and had checked them in the cylinder bore before I installed them onto the pistons. If I'd have done that, I would have noticed that my piston ring end gap was gigantic. The factory spec for these as a maximum is 14 thousandths. I have somewhere around 60 thousandths of piston ring end gap on there. That would have told me straight away that something funny was going on here, and I could have stopped right then, make sure I got the correct parts, and then moved on. The good news here is that it's a relatively simple fix. All I have to do is get the correct size piston rings in there and reassemble absolutely everything. All right, so we got our new piston rings put in here. I went ahead and pushed them in with the piston itself so it's nice and flat in there. What we're looking for is for a maximum of 14 thousandths piston ring gap in the center. So I have my 14 thousandths feeler gauge here. And we are dead on with that. It's actually supposed to be between 10 and 14. We're kind of at the maximum 14 thousandths, but this is perfect. So this is exactly what we wanted to see. Let's go ahead and get these piston rings installed, get these pistons back in, get this engine back together again. All right, hard to get more clear than that. Clearly, I made a major mistake on this one. Had I taken just a couple of minutes to measure my piston ring end gap before I put them on the pistons and installed in the engine, I never would have gotten to this point. I would have realized that something was wrong right from the start. So basically, I skipped over a step and it came back and bit me big time. Now, even though I had no reason to think that this engine had been worked on before, it was a 2-minute process to check the piston ring end gap. Shouldn't have skipped over it, should have just done it. That's what it is. So I want you guys to take something away from this, not just that to learn from my mistakes, but also I want you to realize that making mistakes is part of what you do as a mechanic, especially if you get into the automotive field. You're not going to be perfect every time around. You are going to make mistakes as you go. And the big advice I want to impart to you is don't be too hard on yourself about it. I know when I first started this journey, I was really, really hard on myself when I would make a mistake. I would berate myself for weeks afterwards saying, oh, why didn't you figure this out? Why didn't you understand this? Why didn't you do that? When the reality is all you can do is take what you've learned and move forward with it on the next job. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Do the best you can with your training and make the best decisions you can at the time. The mistakes are going to happen. Don't beat yourself up too much. Pick yourself back up, learn from that mistake, and move forward. That's what I got to do right here. Okay, we're going to get this engine put back together for the second time, and I'll show you guys at the end. Hopefully we have no blow-by issues. As you can see, I did this time what I should have done last time. I went ahead and scuffed up those cylinder walls with my hone. Now they're all set and ready for the new rings to go on. Guys, I gotta tell you, Texas is a strange place. Last week, we're dealing with a really bad ice storm. This week, I've got a sunburn. So anyway, we've got the truck mostly all back together again. I've taken it out for a couple of drives now. One thing to keep in mind is that the piston rings are still not fully seated in there. However, our problem is much alleviated. Check it out. There it is, guys. Truck, it's all set and ready to go. You can see there that we no longer have our blow-by issue. We got that all fixed up on there. Oh, frustrating mistake to have made, but we took care of it, moved forward. The truck is good to go now, and I very much hope this is the last time you see it on the channel. Thank you guys so much for always sticking with me. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and we'll see you next time on Reignited. This engine has been... Double check those before I install them, and then reassemble absolutely everything. Woo! Oh my goodness. We are losing some ice today. Dude, this Texas snowmageddon is no joke, guys.